There's one power, invisible, and you see it everywhere and every day. One power, indescribable, and you speak of it with every word you say. Mysterious until you know the truth. As simple as the love inside of you. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, angels' wings or heaven's door. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? It's the power of the love in you and me. One power, one power.
Good morning and welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living, Midtown-Alanta, where you are welcome. Such is the nature of life, that all it asks and all it wants is the opportunity to appear. And you are that opportunity, and so am I, and so it is. Whoever you are, whatever path brought you here today, please know that you are welcome and celebrated. We know who you are. You are an individualized expression of the divine life in which we all live. Whatever your ethnic background, religious affiliation, however you know yourself or describe yourself, we are glad you are joining us here today. You are welcome to become a part of this community in whatever way serves you. And our vision is we are a strong, open, globally connected community centered on the clarity of principle through teaching, service, and practice that we create through safe and respectful environment that supports a healthy spiritual growth. And now, I'd like to share with you our Declaration of Principles as written by our founder, Ernest Holmes.
A few of the Declaration of Principles we live by.
I believe in one God, one absolute power, and first cause to all things.
I believe that this power is perfect love, and it creates out of a desire to express love.
I believe all thought is creative, and how I choose to think creates my personal experience.
I believe in the unity of all life, and the immortality of the individual soul forever unfolding.
I believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of God to all.
And so it is.
So grateful, hey.
Welcome back. So a practitioner is someone who has demonstrated the ability to use spiritual practice and spiritual laws to bring about great changes in their lives. And they've demonstrated that they know how to do this for others when they are asked to do so. Licensed by the Centers for Spiritual Living, they're available to provide you spiritual guidance and support in those areas where you're looking for assistance. And you can contact them through our website, cslmidtown.org, and on the website you'll see the practitioners. Today we have one of our wonderful practitioners to share with us good ideas and affirmative prayer called the Spiritual Mind Treatment. Judy Aehle. Welcome, Judy.
All right. Okay. Hello. I'm so glad to be here today. Today, we continue with the November theme of loving the unlikable. And today's theme is opinion, fact, or truth. And the affirmation that was suggested for today is this: I value the clarity that comes from distinguishing between truth, facts, and opinions. So the question is, what do we do when we are faced with information that challenges what we believe? It may seem rare these days, but what I think we need to do in these moments is to stay curious, to invite the new information in, and to sit with the new information and to hear it out. Ernest Holmes, the founder of this teaching, taught throughout his lifetime that we need to remain open at the top. So we do need to be open to new ideas, especially those ideas that may challenge what we thought was true. We stand on the truths that we know to be capital T truths, things like oneness, wholeness, and the expression of spirit in every living being. These capital T truths can be the guiding lights as we come to face challenging new information in our lives. Embracing openness at the top means maintaining receptivity to new ideas and perspectives while grounding ourselves in these enduring capital T truths. This involves discerning truth from misinformation. So those are my thoughts on opinion, fact, and truth. So I'd like to transition us now and lead us into a spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer. So if you would just get comfortable wherever you are and take some nice, slow, deep breaths and allow yourself to be fully present right here and right now. Letting whatever distractions you have been into mentally or even in your physical environment, to just let those drift away and know this with me. I know that there is one presence, one power, one life, one infinite goodness, and that this power and presence is everywhere. It's everywhere present. It's in me. It's around you. It's in us. It's in every cell, every ounce, every bit of life that we see pulsating and moving throughout the world. That this presence and power is this that we see. It is itself expressing through life all around us. And I know that I am one with this presence and one with this power, and that you are too, that we are never separated from it, that we are one with it, and that we embody this presence. We embody this goodness. We embody this intelligence, this love, this vibrancy of life. And that whatever thoughts and ideas that I have, it is like a mirror to those ideas. So today, I select new ideas to put forth into the world, into my world, ideas of wholeness, of vibrant health, of great loving relationships, of opulence and abundance, of a life full of meaning and beauty and creativity and new ideas. That this is the truth of who I am, that this presence and this power expresses through me as this goodness. I know that today's service is a great success, that the words that we hear, they uplift us, they guide us, they direct us, that we are all one with this intelligence of life, and that we use our powers of discernment and intuition to know the truth that we experience in our world. And at the same time that we are open to new ideas and to newness flowing into our life, because this presence and this power is always creating something new in our lives and in the world. I turn away from any ideas of lack, of limitation, of frustration, of fear, of worry. I let all of that go, and instead I know that all is well for me. All is well in my life. All is well in my world. And I know that this is true for every person hearing my words and hearing my voice. I'm just grateful for this. I release this treatment now, and I let it be so. And so it is. And now we have some music for reflection. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
There is never any doubt in my mind that I am here for something bigger than my life. I'm not always sure what I As I let go and let God take my hand, I let go and let God design my sacred plan. I let go and let God tend to my what and where. I let go and let God lead me there. In my inner stillness I receive a vision that only my soul can feel and see. And everything that I will ever need will be revealed upon the path before me. As I let go and let God take my hand, I let go and let God design my sacred plan. I let go and let God tend to my what and where. I let go and let God lead me there. And my garden will forever grow, blooming from the seeds that I will sow. Desires planted in my heart, blossoming through me into living art. As I let go and let God take my hand, I let go and let God design my sacred plan. I let go and let God tend to my what and where. I let go and let God lead me there. I let go and let God. I let go and let God.
All right. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today. Reverend James Peake is an advocate for practicing kindness and living as the presence of unconditional love, as this leads to a creative, powerful, and joy-filled life experience. He's an ordained CSL minister and served as senior minister of local communities and teaches CSL online programs. He's currently the Director of Information Technology at CSL Home Office in Golden, Colorado. James holds a business degree in management information systems from the University of Phoenix and a Master of Consciousness Studies from the Holmes Institute. He enjoys living among the pines and the foothills of the Rockies with his son and his granddog, along with hiking and golfing. Welcome, Reverend James.
Thanks, Vance. It's great to be with everyone this morning. And we've got the annual theme at CSL this year. It's really been dynamic and wonderful. It's rising higher and growing deeper. And so we're uplifting ourselves as we're really moving deeper spiritually. And this month, we're loving the unlikable. And this morning, what we're going to dance with is this unlikable thing of information overload. It's kind of hitting us, right? It's just information everywhere, all these opinions, some we like, some we don't like. So we're going to dance with that in a talk that there's opinion, fact, truth, or maybe something else. So just to make sure we're on the same page, and I think most of us would have an idea what an opinion is, right? It's an idea or a judgment formed about something. Like I might say that, prog rock is the greatest genre of music, and someone else might like classical or country. But so that's an opinion, and a fact is something that typically comes out of science a lot of times, something like water boils at 100 degrees Celsius at sea level. It's hard to dispute that. It's provable. It's a fact. And then the definition of truth, the first one I found in the dictionary, it was kind of interesting. It was the quality or state of being true. So we're using the word as part of the definition, which is always kind of interesting. But another way to say it is real facts about a situation, event, or person. So that's opinion, fact, and truth, right? So it's pretty clear, easy to understand. Well, it was, at least until recently, with this modern world that stepped in and just said, let's give people so much information that they can't tell a fact from an opinion, from a cat video, from an ad pretending to be a news story. And that's kind of where we've landed, at least in theory. But in practice, it really mostly depends on what article you're reading, whose viewpoint. Is this news show slanted? Which algorithm did you happen to click on when you were doing a search? Maybe even how much coffee you've had will affect how you can take in this information. But in this information age, nothing's really simple anymore. And I'll give you an idea of what I'm referring to. So in 2010, you maybe have heard of megabyte or even terabyte of data. Well, there's another measurement of zettabyte. It's this huge amount of data. And in 2010, the world generated about 2 zettabytes of data per year, which is a megabyte times 10 to the 15th power. So if you know math or you know science, it's a pretty big amount of data. By 2020, just 10 years later, we had moved from 2 zettabytes to 64 of information being generated on an annual basis. And this year, we're on pace to more than double that, to 148. So not only are we getting more and more information, but it's speeding up. So the technology is speeding up, life is speeding up. And we're having to deal with all these different news platforms, right? So we have those on the extreme right, the extreme left, the moderate right, the moderate left. And they come at us, in television, podcasts, social media. There is so much information just in the political realm, let alone other realms of information. And it's really requiring us to process and assimilate so much knowledge compared to previous eras. It used to be back, I'm old enough to remember when there was really 3 TV stations, and you had news, you had newspapers, and there was a little bit of information coming out, and every now and then there'd be a discovery, and it was wonderful. But now it seems like we're just inundated with so much, and it's hard to discern what's true and what's not. So in addition to the volumes of data, it's just, how do we even discern or even understand what's actually truthful? Because we've got leadership in business and government that are totally in conflict with each other, totally saying that the truth is different things at different times. And then when we bring in AI into it, AI is in its infancy. It's going to dramatically affect, it's already starting to change the world, dramatically affect things. And some of it is for the positive. It's really supporting like workers in their daily tasks and helping them be more efficient. But also it can be used to create deep fake videos where it appears that somebody said something or made a speech about something which they never did, but the AI can create that. So, and these videos are getting posted, to Facebook, to X, to YouTube, and it's like, well, wait a minute, but I saw it on video. It has to be true. It's getting really challenging, and it not only is it presenting us with things that we may not like, that we want to push back on, but just the sheer volume alone is just an amazing amount that it's really making it challenging. And you're thinking, okay, what does this have to do with my spiritual path? I'll get there, I promise. But this issue of pushing back and not being open to ideas really is something that's been around for quite a while. We can go back to Galileo. It's a great example, right? So Galileo presented the idea that the planets revolve around the sun rather than around the Earth. And at the time, the common thought was the planets everything, the universe revolves around the Earth because the Earth is the most important thing, and that God created the Earth, and da 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 da. And Galileo ended up having to rescind and take back his opinion and his proclamation, and he ended up serving most of the later years of his life in prison. And yet, the model, the understanding that the planets revolve around the sun is commonplace today. We don't even think twice about it. It's presented in school, and no one really challenges that idea. But we have similar challenges, though, today, because there's such an advancement just in historical knowledge, and social dynamics are changing dramatically in the world. Quantum mechanics is the idea that thought can affect a wave, and it collapses into form. That's pushing against a lot of traditional classical physics. The sciences, it's all really pushing us into a state of having to deal with all this information, all these new ideas, And in many ways, they're pushing back against long-held beliefs. So as religious scientists, as folks whose spirituality is very important to us, right? We're walking the spiritual path. What do? Well, and as Judy mentioned, Ernest Holmes urged us to remain open at the top. He wasn't looking for us to, whether it's the teaching itself or other things in the world, to just get locked in and then not to be open to new discoveries, because science alone is always discovering new things. And there's new information that's coming about, so we want to be open to it. But how do we be open to it without totally being inundated? That's truly a challenge, because all these advancements, and we've got more conflict in the world these days, it seems, than maybe ever. And not only just conflict between nations, but within nations, between political parties, between different groups and sectors pushing against each other. Artificial intelligence, again, is coming on board and just changing how information is created, how it can be assimilated, how it can be organized. And these divisions now are affecting our family units. In the past, we used to be able, at least in my family, we could have some civilized conversations. If we saw things different, maybe politically or something else in the world, you could have a civil conversation. But folks are really dug into their point of view, and it's getting very challenging, and families are being torn apart over political ideas. So within all of this going on, though, within all of this, the longest held belief that's accepted as true in fact, and very few people will push back on this, by the vast majority of people on the planet, and it has the most significant, in my opinion, the most significant impact on life on the planet, is the idea that we're separate physical beings, that we're ultimately alone, having to figure out how to make our way in the world. And we can see it all around us. The world really supports this idea of duality, the idea that there's a me here, and if I believe in a God, because there's a lot of folks that don't, but if I believe in a God, there's a me here and there's a power out there, whether we call it God, the creator, the universe. And the media, the movies, our everyday conversations, it just seems that so much of life is grounded in duality. Now, granted, within CSL communities and within the spiritual realm, sometimes we have a little bubble where we don't see things maybe quite in the same dual nature that so often life shows up. But the challenge is that this duality not only shows up as a belief in separation, but then it kind of moves on into a belief in limitation, a belief in lack, a belief in scarcity, which often leads to extreme competition, extreme wealth, separation. So the haves and the have-nots, the oppressors and the oppressed, and it just leads to a lot of hardship and a lot of violence, a lot of fighting in the world. Really is around this idea of scarcity. So spirituality helps, though, right? I mean, we're spiritual, and so we can kind of do things different. And yet, even in our spiritual world, the spiritual marketplace, as I like to refer to it as, we have common phrases such as, I wanted to connect with my higher self, or I turned it over to God. Well, these types of phrases, again, it's grounded in separation. There's a me here, I, who is looking to connect with something that's outside of me. And so that even within the spiritual realm, spiritual teachings, there's a lot of separation that gets communicated. And so it's either true or it's not, right? Because either we have oneness, either everything is the one life, expressing in a multitude of ways. Each of us is an expression of that life living as us, life experiencing itself due to our life. But when we're in this idea of I need to put, and I'm going to connect with God, or I need to turn this over, what we're really ending up is we're taking the power, our own power that's within, and we're placing it outside of ourselves. We're saying that something outside of us, and this extends to spiritual teachers too, excuse me, spiritual teachers too, that we're believing that something outside of us has more intelligence, more wisdom, more power than we do. And all this does is really amplify the belief in separation. And it ultimately does discount the idea that the wisest guru in our lives is our inner voice. Now, it may take a while to find that voice. If we've grown up in a belief system that says, no, you have to go through another to reach God. Or maybe we grew up in a belief system where there's no such thing as spirit. Spirituality doesn't really exist. It's all fabrication. Or maybe we were harmed and we have a lot of trauma in our life. So it's hard to hear that inner voice. But ultimately, that inner voice, that wise whisper in the silence of our soul, is the same voice that speaks to everyone. It spoke to Jesus, it spoke to the Buddha. For if there's one life, we can either have oneness, or it's either all one or it's not. We can't say this is oneness here, but this piece is outside. But if it's one life, then that voice is the same voice. It's the voice of the one spirit. And it's speaking to us. But it's really hard to hear that with so much information, and if we're pushing back on life. And it's not the voice of the controlling, judgmental, fearful ego. So our ego is really just a mental and emotional construct. When we were very young, we were told that we were, a person, and then we started to understand we were separate. And in 2 or 3 years old, we fought for our own independence. But what happens is over time is that sense of there's a me builds memories and builds emotional reactions. And we truly get to the point where we are identified with this idea that we're a separate being. And we need the ego or the egoic mind to organize and to feed ourselves and drive a car and things like that. But it's really designed to be a tool. It's not who we really are. It's not our essence. Now, Ernest Holmes in The Science of Mind said, "It is only when we let go of all human will and recognize the pure essence of the spiritual principle incarnated in us that thought rises above a belief in duality." We have to let go of that human will. So what is this human will we're letting go of? Well, again, it's that egoic sense, that egoic aspect of who we are. It's that, I need this, I want that, I don't like this. And as we allow that to start to fall away and allow our true spiritual nature to come forward and more express more in who we are, life begins to change. We can more easily listen to that quiet nudging from spirit, that quiet guidance. And it doesn't show up. So sometimes it's easier to identify what something is by saying what it's not. So what it's not is judgmental, loud, fearful, doesn't make demands, doesn't say, you should be doing this. No, that's the judgmental ego. But maybe it's more of a subtle thing you may want to consider. And so there's a dance there. But when we really quiet our minds and our emotions, we do begin to open the door to the deeper depths of our nature, of who we really are. In meditation, communing with nature, taking an intentional time out from the information age and everything that's going on, that can really assist us in getting quiet and hearing that inner voice. And when we're in that space and of quiet and calm, kind of like the eye of the storm, the hurricane, it's easier to hear things that we may not agree with and be open to. It's like, well, okay, I'll look at that. It doesn't sound right, but I'll take a look. And the amount of information has less of an impact. We can more easily discern where we're going to go for our sources. For me, years ago, I could go to a couple sources. I could have a particular news show or maybe a newspaper. These days, there's so many different avenues and people are reporting on so many different things. There's so much going on in the world that you need a few more sources, but it's easier to discern what works for you. Where am I going to go to get my information? And again, we're not talking about we don't want to get ourselves so overwhelmed that we go into fear, but we want to have a sense that we understand, or we're having a sense of knowledge of the world. And for those of us that maybe are ministers or practitioners, sometimes the news tells us, gives us an indication of something we could pray about. So it's not all, doom and gloom. I mean, if there's a challenge in the world, we may want to do a prayer around that. But again, getting quiet really allows us to live more in the awareness of openness rather than this world of separation. And again, Dr. Ernest Holmes suggested to us in this thing called You, how we might move through the world in this way. And he said, see God in everyone. The same God with a different face, the same animating principle with a different form, the same divine presence clothed in individual expression. So here he's really reminding us that, there is diversity in life in many ways, including humans. And yet it's the one God expressing and showing up in all these different ways. And so he gave us a sense of how we can kind of move in the world. And then also he provided a glimpse of how he thought it could look. So if you go back into the history of religious science, this teaching, the science of mind teaching, at one point there was one organization, and it ended up splitting. And then in 2012, the two organizations came back together under the name Centers for Spiritual Living. But back in the 50s, there were two organizations. There was Religious Science International and United Centers. And Holmes he was aligned with the United side. But both organizations would go to Asilomar every summer, different weeks, and have a week-long conference. And at every conference that Holmes attended, he would give a final talk, and known as a Sermon by the Sea. So his Sermon by the Sea, the final year that he did one, 1959, has an excerpt that I'd like to share with you, because I think it really speaks to the power of spiritual consciousness. And again, he gives a glimpse as to what he thought could happen in the world. And again, he's at Asilomar, he's speaking to the attendees there that are made up of ministers, practitioners, lay people, but he's speaking to them. You are religious science. I am not. I am only the one who puts something together. I do not even take myself seriously, but I take what I'm doing seriously. You are religious science, our ministers, our teachers, our practitioners, our lay people. You find me 1,000 people in the world who know what religious science is and use it and live it as it is, and I'll myself live to see a new world, a new heaven, and a new earth here. There is a cosmic power wrapped in a cosmic consciousness and purposeness that is equal to the vision which releases it. What I'm saying is this: there is a law that backs up the vision, and the law is immutable. There is a power transcendent beyond our needs, our little wants, demonstrating a dime is good if one needs it, or healing oneself of pain is certainly good if one has it. But beyond that, at the real feast at the tabernacle of the Almighty, in the temple of the living God, in the banquet hall of heaven, there is something beyond anything that you or I have touched. Find 1,000 people who know that and use it, and the world will no longer be famished. How important it is that each of us, in our own simple way, shall live from God to God, with God, in God, and to each other. That is why we are here. And we are taking back with us, I trust, a vision and an inspiration, something beyond a hope and a longing that the living Spirit shall walk anew in its own creation, and a new glory will come to a new dawn. So Holmes is describing, of course, 1,000 people living with the awareness, the presence, and action of spirit as human. Not separate, not buying into limitation, not allowing the chatter in our minds to distract us. Science of mind is very pointed. It's very direct. It cuts through a lot of things that say, here's the truth. these 1,000 people would be living with the fundamental awareness that we are all expressions of spirit, recognizing that our actions, our choices, and the lives we live are spirit experiencing itself. Thus, when we show up as the presence of love, of wholeness, of compassion, not as separate beings again, but as God experiencing itself, the one and only self. I want to repeat that. It's God experiencing itself. So right now, God is experiencing itself as this body known as James speaking, each of you listening and taking in this conversation. It's experiencing itself. This is what we're talking about, true oneness. But when we are living this way, we're living in unity. It's beyond the opinions, the facts, and even the truth of the world of duality, which really is something else. So the invitation this week is, if you find that you're trapped in maybe a belief in separation, you're feeling separate, you're finding yourself in judgment, believing in the power of the condition, feeling overwhelmed due to all the information or ideas that are being presented that you don't necessarily agree with, just remember, there's another perspective, another way that is beyond opinion, fact, truth, to something else. And that something else is spirit as you. Namaste. I'd like to move into a time of prayer now. I invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable doing so. And what I'm present to is possibilities, the possibilities that life can manifest and demonstrate in an instant, in a different way than it has always been. This is the promise of the science of mind, that the past is not controlled by what's happened. The present is not controlled by the past. The future is not controlled. The principle rules the day. And this is true because there is this one God, this one life, this one presence. And there are aspects and there's a nature to it, how it is. This aspect of the universal mind, the divine presence, the divine love, that each and every one of us is of this life. There's no ending, no beginning. We simply are an expression of the one life. And as such, all the words, all the descriptions that we may use to describe spirit, to describe God, thus must be in our nature, must be who we are, even in moments of overwhelm or moments of discourse where we forget who we are. That truth cannot be changed. And I know this day that to the degree that we allow ourselves to be open at the top, to recognize that we are spirit in action, that our lives move with that flow, with that power and that presence, that we show up as the love and the compassion, the intelligence and the power that life is, that we affect a change in our world. And it is that ripple with other ripples that truly affect the one consciousness and affect change on the planet. That we are moving toward a day where we will reveal a world that works for all. A world that works for all. And so from this place of recognizing these truths, I simply give thanks for the law that makes it so, that takes the impress of our thoughts and just says yes, yes, yes. So I move into a time now of releasing this treatment. There's nothing I've said here, nothing we've thought that has changed anything about God. We're simply recognizing the truth that is already present. And so we anchor in this treatment, we let it go by simply saying together, and so it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend James. Awesome talk, very thought-provoking, all that information that we have going on. So we will see you over on Zoom in just a little bit. Thanks. Now it's time for conscious giving. So we have the opportunity to bring all of these speakers to you every single week from all over the country, and we're grateful for that. So you can donate at cslmidtown.org/donate. Scan the QR code, it'll take you to that same site. You can donate one time or set up an ongoing donation. If you would, say with me our affirmation of prosperity. I live in a universe of abundance. As I freely and joyfully give, I join in the divine flow, and all that I share with life returns to me multiplied abundantly. And so it is. We got a few announcements. Reverend Cynthia Paulson will be with us next week. Her topic is a mouse, a cockroach, and an ant walk into a bar. So that should be very interesting because she's her little blurb about that. You have to come listen to see what the rest of it's all about. So that's the loving the unlikable part of this week. We have a online adult study group that meets on our Zoom channel, which you can get to by going to cslmidtown.org and scrolling to the bottom, click on the Zoom with a little passcode to get you in the meeting. That meets at 10 a.m. on Sunday mornings before the service. They're discussing the Science of Mind textbook, and you don't have to have read it or that week's chapter of it. It's a very thick book. To come participate. So if you're learning more and delving deeper into religious science and science of mind, come join them on that. Now, you can join us on Zoom, the same Zoom channel, to have a discussion with Reverend James about what he talked about today. It should be very interesting. And now let's say our affirmation of life. I leave this place now knowing something better than I knew before. I go forth into the world with a heart full of love and a mind full of good sense. I look at the world in a greater way, knowing that I have within me everything I need to create the life I desire. I give thanks for this understanding, and I am grateful for the spirit of life that lives through me. And so it is. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for all that I have. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for all that I have. Hey! Oh yeah. Grateful. I just say I am so grateful every day for all I have. Every day. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for all I have. Every day I say it. Grateful. How I'm grateful. Every day. Oh yeah. I am so grateful. Oh yeah. I'm so grateful. 'Cause I accept and I receive. I am so grateful. Oh yes, I am. I am. So grateful, hey, grateful. I'll just count my blessings. Grateful. I just count my blessings.
There is a power for good in the universe greater than you are.